Have you ever wondered how many times you've lost someone in your life over something that wasn't even true? Something they heard about you or saw about you that wasn't even true? How many relationships have you allowed yourself to lose over something you heard about somebody one time? How many business relationships potentially have you lost over something that somebody saw online about you, for instance, and didn't bother to check with you and ask you about that thing? How about friendships, partners? I mean, look at the T app, for example. We have this whole app that is designed to allow people to gossip about each other and warn other people about potential partners and things of that nature, things that they wouldn't even share online. It's this secret app where we let people gossip, and you're supposed to, I guess, warn other women about guys, for instance. But why can't they share the stuff online? If it was really that bad, why can't they share it on an app that everybody uses? See, we as a society have gotten to this place where we believe everything that we hear online. We're constantly focused on the negative. We're constantly looking for a reason to doubt things and a reason to not trust people. And so anytime we hear something, anytime we're presented with some piece of information that validates that opinion that we already have, when we go into some opportunity, we go into some potential relationship or whatever it may be, the first time we're presented with any piece of information that validates that negative belief that we have, we believe it. We believe it to be true. We look for reasons to doubt people as opposed to reasons to trust people. And sure, there's a lot of people out there who you can't trust. But why is it that we are so focused on making impressions about people who we don't even know in person, who we've never even stopped to ask about the things that we believe to be true? Why is it that we spend so much of our time forming these opinions on other people who we have never even got to know? What if that person who you formed an opinion about, maybe you said they were weird or whatever it may be, you heard something bad about this person and you formed this opinion about them, but you never even stopped to talk to them. You never stopped to ask them anything. And you just assume what you've heard online is true. What about that potential employee who maybe they got in trouble, for example, when they were 18, 19 years old, and they turned their life around? And when you look their name up because you were thinking about hiring this person to do some work for you, you decided not to, and you never even mentioned it to them. You never even gave them the opportunity to explain what happened. You saw something online and you formed an opinion about them based on a Google search that you did without even giving them the chance to explain themselves. Based on something that you heard from years ago or saw from years ago, when they may be a completely different person now. Maybe this person's 30 years old, for example, and they did something when they were 19 and they've changed their life since then. But you formed a judgment about that person based on something that you saw on the internet of all places. And that thing that you formed a judgment about wasn't even actually as bad as what you saw online. What you saw online wasn't even correct. But you never stopped to ask them. You never stopped to validate that or verify that thing or verify what they had said. You just took it to be true. And you formed that judgment and you lost what could have been a good employee because of that. Or maybe a relationship. Maybe you heard something about a woman, for example, that she can't be trusted, she's a liar, she's a cheater. Maybe her ex, for example, said something like that. But they forgot to mention all the things that they did. They forgot to mention that what they were telling you was exaggerated. Maybe that woman wasn't actually a liar and a cheater. Maybe she was in a bad relationship and her ex was saying all those things because they were bitter, or vice versa. Maybe a woman was trashing her ex and you're a woman, for example, and you're considering dating this person, so you ask the ex about them and they tell you all these bad things, and so you never even brought it up to that person, and you formed this judgment about them, and you lost what could have been your husband. It could have been the greatest partner you've ever had because you had a judgment about somebody that wasn't even based off of reality. It was based off one person's perception of somebody, and that perception may have not even been true. So this is why I think it's so important that we have to remember we live in a digital world, and the stuff that you see online, oftentimes it's not true. Oftentimes it may be exaggerated. I mean, we have this whole app, for instance, now that's designed to let people gossip about people, called the T app or whatever. And people go on this app and they share information about people to warn them about specific individuals. And anytime somebody's considering dating somebody, they go search them up on the T app now. This secret database, I guess you could call it, where I guess these women and maybe guys, I don't know, I think it's mostly women that use this app. They go on this app and they gossip about these guys, and they post stuff about these guys that they wouldn't even post online because they would be too embarrassed to do that. But they never stop to think about how that would affect that man. Because you're bitter because you had a bad date. And so you go on this app and you talk about this guy and bash this guy on social media to try to prevent them from ever being able to have a partner again after you. And you may have costed that man meeting his wife, the woman that he was supposed to be with, because she saw something on the T app, of all places. Think about that for a second. Imagine somebody did that to you because they had a bad date, or you didn't get along with that person, or whatever the case is, so you go and bash them all over social media when they didn't even do anything to really deserve that. How would that make you feel? But this is the way we treat people in this day and age. We have apps made for gossiping about people. And I'm not just saying it's women, but from what I've seen at least, it tends to be, it's not all women, I'm not saying it's all women, but it tends to be more often the women who are gossiping about people online. But we all do this to some extent, I think, whether we realize it or not, where you form these impressions about people. Guys do it too. You form an impression about a girl, a woman, from something that you've heard about this person or something you saw online one time. Okay, she's wearing a sports bra or whatever at the gym. And so because she's wearing revealing clothes at the gym, you assume that this woman is somehow a hoe and doesn't have any self-respect, but you didn't know that she had body issues where she was very overweight and that she lost a bunch of weight, for example, maybe. And now she's proud of the progress that she's made at the gym, and so she's showing off the progress that she's made, not just for attention, but also because she's proud of herself for overcoming that. But you formed a judgment about her, for instance. See, a lot of us do this and we don't even realize it. So I challenge you, if you're watching this, next time you start to form an opinion about somebody based on something you heard from maybe one person, ask yourself if that's right. Ask yourself if you would like it if people did that to you about something they heard about you that wasn't even true, or maybe was exaggerated, or maybe was taken out of context. Why don't you get to know people first before you form those opinions about people? And then also keep in mind another thing. People change over time. You may not be the same person you were 5-6 years ago that you are now. People change over time. Their beliefs about things change over time. Their mindset changes over time. People may grow up and they may start to act more mature. That person who was behaving a certain way maybe in high school, they may not be the same person they were in high school. They may have grown up, for example. So you got to keep that in mind too. But anyways, don't form opinions about people based on just the things that you've heard about them. It got me thinking about this. I was like, how many people have formed an opinion about me based on something they heard that wasn't even actually true, where I've lost a friendship or relationship or whatever it is, because we do this stuff all the time without even realizing it. And it's not right. We can't get wrapped up in what we see on this digital world, because this isn't reality. Things can be edited, it can be altered. So you can't get too focused on what you see online or what you hear about somebody. Get to know them first before you form that opinion.